let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the Gabriella bag from the Empurrium, and we are making the non-cat version. So if you have an aversion to cats, make this version. It's midnight. But this is interfaced with Deck of a Light. It is made with the Daylight Alexandrite Luxe vinyl from my website. I also used waterproof cotton from my website for the lining and accents. And in the zipper pocket and the flap, I used a thinner water-resistant canvas so that there was less bulk. This pattern comes together so beautifully. It is so much fun to make, so I hope you will join me as I sew it. We're going to get started on our crossbody strap. Within the pattern, it says to use whatever method you would like to make your strap. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take two different pieces of fabric. I think they're both cut to 1.5 inches wide. I'm going to tape down the center using 1/2 inch double-sided tape. And then I'm going to fold both long raw edges into the center and go from there. We'll stack them on top of each other and then sew down all 4 sides of the strap. Now this strap is a little bit more time consuming than other straps, but I think it's fun. And just like with anything else, the more you do it, the quicker it gets. So I don't even measure down the center line anymore. I just kind of eyeball it. I'm working on one side. Pressing as I go. You could use a seam roller. The only problem with that is that you'd have to tape down both sides at once, and that can get a little funky sometimes, a little tricky. Might be easier for you, but I find like it's harder to get each side to lay just right. And if you prefer and you want to be a little more fancy with it, you can measure the center. You could even just use 1/4 inch double-sided tape. And then fold those long raw edges to the center. If your machine does not like tape, this is a little bit tricky to do. And I am just folding these in to meet directly in the center. I'm not overlapping. I'm not leaving a gap. Just trying to be as consistent as possible. Pressing all those layers together. Okay. And then you don't want to take too long, especially if you don't trust your double-sided tape. But if you wanted to, technically you could like stitch down each side right now at like a 3/8 inch seam allowance or so, just to keep it all together. And then the bigger your strap, the easier this is. So like a 1 inch strap, this is a lot easier because you've got more room on each side of that fold. But with a 3/4 inch, it's a little harder. You don't have as much fabric to sit flat. So if that doesn't quite make sense, right now I'm folding like a 1/4 inch over versus 1/2 inch, which has more room to kind of settle. So all of the pressure is on this corner closer to, and it wants to pop. And that could be attributed to using a more a stronger double-sided tape maybe, but I like this one. And then try to start in the center and work my way out with vinyl so that you don't get that rolling. But it also has to do with if you stretch the vinyl at all. So, trying to go quick. This does like work out your arms. I've been seeing a lot of like fitness reels lately and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that would be funny to do like a sewing one, like to work out my arms. No, I don't know. But you do have to work kind of quick. And if you had a heavy seam roller, you could just make sure to give that a good roll. And then I'm going to use just a 1/4 inch double-sided tape down the center over the vinyl side, because my fabric is doing okay. It doesn't seem like it wants to pop or lift or anything, so it's not doing too bad. And I'm just pressing this down. It's going to help that stay while I work on this next part. But we are going to peel away just a little bit on one side, and we're going to start taping this down. And now, since I'm using fabric and vinyl, if you don't want a raw edge, you can kind of fold that, but I think we're going to be fine. We can trim up anything and we can fold the vinyl over the fabric, and I'll show you that too. And so I'm just laying these right on top of one another, slowly peeling the tape and pressing as I go. I think this will be really pretty. And then you could choose to have the flower as the underside of the strap, so it's something softer on your body. All right, and then I'm going to cut this with like 1/2 inch to go on this strap here, and just fold that up like that. And I'll take a clip, and that's it. I think I'm going to do it so the vinyl side is up, because most of my bag, well, all of my exterior of this bag is the printed vinyl. Nope, it's just a solid vinyl. And then this is the lining print, so you're not going to see it much, and I think it would be nice to kind of have that little pop. All right, and we're just going to sew it 1/8 inch on either side. Alrighty. Oh, it's so pretty. Alright, so then I've got a slide adjuster and 2 snap hooks, and I'm going to start with my slide adjuster side. I'm going to wrap this around, and you could finish this with a rivet, or you can sew it And I like to do 2 lines of stitching as close to the center as I can. And you'll see, like, it didn't matter that that woven fabric edge was unfinished because it's covered right now. We'll take our lighter. Too many bobbins, I got confused. All right. So now with the wrong side of our strap facing up, you take a snap hook, slide that through, up and over the slide adjuster. And you want to make sure you're using a slide adjuster appropriate to the materials you're using. And then you've got that nice finished edge there, and you could finish this side off with a rivet. So I'm going to do that super quick, just using a little hole punch on the cam press and 1 9x9 rivet. So the hole is punched all the way through, cap in the top, post in the bottom, and then squeeze that together. And press that slow, make sure that your rivet press is lined up. And that is our strap done for now. I'll just set that there. So now we can go ahead and prep our top zipper. That is a measurement given within the pattern. So make sure you're measuring that carefully. I made a mark at the top and the bottom. And then I just cut across the teeth. We're going to add 2 zipper pulls so that we're not sad. I did that on my last one. But that means I need to grab 1 more. And then add your zipper pulls. I'm using a zipper jig that I designed and had manufactured. I do not have any more. I will not have them ever again. All right, I've got just a little tiny bubble, but you can use your hands to do this. I just find it to be so much easier to use the jig, but I can also put the pulls on by hand. Okay, just using a lighter across the ends to make sure it doesn't come undone. Yeah, no, I forgot it. And then I'm just gonna cut another zipper that's like 10 inches. That one is for my interior zipper pocket, so I'm not super concerned as long as it's bigger than I need. And I'm just taking the lighter to the ends, and I will get a zipper pull for that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and add our zipper tabs. To the end of the zipper. These are meant to be raw edged. If you want to, you can complete them before you start sewing with some edge coat, or if you have a preference on how you like to add tabs with a woven fabric, you could just follow that. Back stitching at the beginning, back stitching at the end, repeating that on the other side. Trim that apart. And then we're going to mark the center of our zipper. And generally you do not want to snip this with scissors. We have learned the hard way. It's not good, but what I do is when I snip it, I just take my lighter and melt it so it's not going to fray later on. So this is prepped for our zipper pocket piece later. Or zipper, is it a zipper pocket? Zippered flap. There we go. The other prep work we're gonna get out of the way is top stitching our strap connector for the hidden D-ring connector. So it's one big piece that we're going to top stitch both sides. And then we're going to cut it in half. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfectly cut in half, because it's not going to matter. Okay. So I think that's pretty good for our prep work for now. So we can kind of scooch this aside and work on the zippered flap. So when I cut this bag out, I went ahead and clipped the pieces I need to sew together. We've got our exterior fabric and our interior. If you are making this into a cat, you need to add the tail and the ears, the nose, and the whiskers. But if you're not making a cat, well then you can just go. You're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance to put these together using a construction length. So 3.5 or 4 if you'd like, and then back stitch at the beginning and the end. Repeating that on the other side. Back stitch, trim those threads. And now you can flip this and top stitch. If you are worried about bulk, you could butterfly stitch and top stitch. If you're adding ears to your exterior, you cannot do that. I was thinking about butterflying. I thought it would be really cute, but it's also a really tiny seam allowance. So I'm gonna do it anyway. Just going slow, pressing that down as I go. All right, I've already marked my center there. We're going to add a magnetic snap to the lining. So I'm just going to add a clip there and put it in the bin. And then this, I'm going to try to press this seam open. You can use double-sided tape to help you hold it if you'd like. I might not be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is just clip 1/2 inch in. Doesn't quite matter. We're going to press that seam open. Yes, okay. Sorry, I'm like, how do I top stitch this? So we're going to press that open like that on the side and give it a little tack. And this is going to reduce the bulk in the sides. And then the rest of the seam we'll go ahead and press down as stated in the instructions. This will give a really nice seam to the back, but then as I'm at this side here, I'm going to press that little bit open, and that allows the fabric to sit flat. And then I'll stop and pivot and backstitch over that piece. So you can see we've got a really nice seam here, and it sits flat on the sides. If you want to add any kind of tag, this would be a good place. I kind of want to put this hanging there on there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try out this glue dispenser tool from Sewing Blurbs. Okay. I was like, I don't know that it's any better than double-sided tape, but it's fun in theory. Also, Dorothy kind of got a hold of that, so if it's messed up, it's because of her. All right. It is stuck. All right, I'm going to move my stitch length to a 4.5. Okay. And then tie off my threads in the back. If you tie off your threads, I would love to know how many times do you tie it? What is your preference? Do you count or not? Because I feel like I usually do 3. 3 feels right. Like third time's the charm, maybe. If my fingers will let me. And then sometimes I'll even tie those together. If I can. Sometimes I just don't leave the threads long enough. That's my bad. But yeah, I just don't want it to come undone over time. I've had it to happen to bags that I make for myself. And it makes me sad. Okay. Oh, it's so cute. Get out of here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape and place this on my flap. Don't forget, we have to add our magnetic snap to that. These are my lining pieces, and you can apply the tape to your zipper. Your zipper is straight, so it's going to be quicker. I love putting it on the fabric. I don't know why. It's what I'm used to. And I am going to refer to the pattern for where to put that snap. I think I know, but I don't want to misdo it. And you definitely don't want to forget to add that magnet either. You'd be sad in the end. So this is going to be the outie portion of the snap. And then I'm going to need more washers. I like to keep my washers in a little container by my machine so I never forget to have them. But I'll forget if I don't replace them. The pattern has instructions for both markings for the magnets, so I'm just going to add them both really quick. And then if you would like to reinforce, you can. I think they'll be okay. All right. And then always double check before you seam rip those that nothing is underneath to mess it up. Okay, and this is on your lining of your zipper flap. Definitely check that as well. That would be very, very sad. Okay. Very sad. That's nice. So both magnets are attached where they need to be, and we can start attaching our zipper. So because we are using double-sided tape, we are not going to need to baste this down. You just want to press it along that curve, and then lining. Do not grab your other side of this. Grab your lining. Right sides together, matching up that center snip, overlapping your zipper tab, and you're going to sew the entire length of this. You're not sewing a small piece, you're doing the whole thing. 1/8 of an inch, nope. 1/4 inch seam allowance is Brittany's preference, but you can do 3/8 if you'd like. But 1/4 will be just fine. And then we're going to top stitch this from tab to tab. Yeah. Pulling along that seam. Giving it a good back stitch, and I pull the zipper tape from the fabric, and if you're not sure that that's enough, you can also place your hand underneath to make sure your lining is rolled out of the way as well. And then we're going to back stitch that as well. And then very carefully singe your threads. Okay, so since this is the front of the bag, that's the one we care about. This is going to be underneath the flap. We don't care about it as much. So that's why you want to do the front first. because top stitching this side won't be as easy. Okay. And try not to stretch your zipper tape as you're doing this. And now I have the lining exterior piece with the exterior, and now both of my lining pieces are together, right sides together on either side of that zipper. Pinching all that together. And 1/4 of an inch. And once again, pressing all of that. You can unzip this if you want. It helps a little bit. Either way, it's still a little funky. It's okay though. Just get through it. So what we want to focus on right now is that our zipper tab is in a place we can see, and that we're back stitching at the zipper tab. And now we can kind of rearrange everything as we go. And I'm just making sure everything is where it needs to be. And if not everything is where it needs to be at once, that's okay. We just need to focus on what's a couple inches in front of us. And then we can continue on. And at that zipper tab. Voila. That's it. That's it, baby. Ooh. Got a little carried away there. So now we're going to turn this into just a big old flap. Big old zipper pouch flap. So we're going to unzip this about halfway on either side. And we're going to put right sides together of the exterior and right sides of the lining. And grab some clips. So you're going to press this down here at the zipper. And hopefully our lining and exterior line up right here. All right. Now we're going to start at the exterior bottom and work our way to the lining bottom. Because the lining, we're going to sew all the way shut. We're going to use a little bit bigger of a seam allowance along the bottom of the lining. Yeah, okay. 1/4 inch. I was just going to say, the bobbin is not going to see me through. It was not full. Okay. This one is, we should be good. All right, and now we're getting to the lining. So we want to stick with that 1/4 for now and slowly increase to that 3/8. Okay, and then as we get up here, go back to that 1/4. Back stitch at the end. Okay, and then we can trim down the seam allowance and the lining. Just don't cut through your stitches. And then I'm actually not going to cut my exterior. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So then we can open up our zipper all the way, reach in, grab the bottom of that pocket, and turn that through. Press out your zipper tabs. Check on those corners. Make sure everything is sitting nice. And then press the lining inside. And now we're going to roll the seam back and forth between our fingers. We're not top stitching the flap, but we are going to be sewing down the side here. So you want to make sure that that seam is out. And I'm just clipping right along the edge because you'll want to make sure that your lining sits nicely as well. And we're going to be sewing this down onto the exterior back piece. And you really don't want to see the lining side. I wonder too, it couldn't hurt to like cut that back side by like 1/8 of an inch so that when you turn the seam, the outside is a little bit bigger and the back wants to just kind of sit under. But not a big deal. You can see that's sitting nicely. Make sure your pocket lining sits pretty well too. Make sure that you've got your magnet on your flap. And now we're going to grab the back side of our exterior, which has nothing on it because if you were going to add a cattail, it needed to be on this side. And then we're going to line this up. We can mark our center. And clip that down. And now I'm going to sew across the bottom first. And now I'm switching back to a stitch length of 5 because I had switched it a little bit smaller. And we're going to grab a ruler and make a mark with a removable pen that's about 5/8. Sorry, Brittany. That is a measurement given in the pattern. Below that top stitch line. That's where we're going to stop stitching and add a rivet. I keep worrying I'm going to hit the button, but I can't. Okay. Now, 1/8 of an inch. Back stitching. And just right along that edge. Ooh, it looks so pretty. Pull your threads to the back, and we'll tie that off. I need to leave myself longer tails. Ooh. Okay. And repeat. And now this might be a little bulky depending on the materials you used. So make sure you planned according to your machine and then stop at that mark you made if you didn't erase it. Okay, and then a rivet just right inside of those stitch lines to reinforce. And I'm going to do that in a minute. We're going to move on to our gusset pieces and get that done so we can put our exterior together. Okay, so we've got our bottom and our side panels, our strap connectors, and 2 D-rings. We're going to start by putting wrong side up on that hidden connector piece and just have like, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch sticking up from the top edge of your side panel. Just about, it's not that serious, just a good amount. And then we're going to top stitch this on right above the trapezoid cutout, but not through it, just right above it. Back stitching. Don't backstitch too much. Depending on what kind of materials you're using, you could risk perforation. You don't want that. But then we'll add the D-ring and slide that in. And when you slide that in, you're going to press in on that trapezoid, hiding it. I've done this a million times, so it comes easy to me, but it may take a minute. And now, once you've got that in there, you want to pull that down as far as you think you can. And I'm pinching it with my finger to make sure I have the trapezoid and my 2 layers of strap connector and top stitch under there. Okay. There we go. And then we can also add a rivet through all of that. In the center, a little below, for extra reinforcement. And then we're going to sew the base on at 3/8 of an inch. Pretty sure 3/8. Yeah. And then we're also going to butterfly open that top stitch. And then we can trim all those threads. And add all of our rivets. I'm going to find the center, the bottom. Just lining all that up. Okay, and we're almost done with the exterior. Now that we have rivets on our back panel, we have our magnets attached, rivets attached to our gusset, we can go ahead and attach the gusset. You can start with it on the back, you can start with it on the exterior, front, whichever you prefer. Either way, line up your centers first. I like to clip going out and then clip at the top of the curve of the bag and kind of work your way down. Everything comes together in the corner, and that's when you kind of decide if you need to make some snips or if things fit pretty nicely. And I like to clip hanging my bag off the edge of my machine. It's kind of less work having to lift it up and in, all that. All right. Just an overworked clip, man. Okay. Okay. And then 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch at the beginning. You can staple along the curve if you need to. Just gonna go nice and slow, pressing as I go. And then I'm going to trim that down just to reduce the bulk around the curves. And then if you need to, you can add a second row of stitching. Just kind of next to it at 1/8 of an inch or so, just to help everything sit a little bit better. And that can kind of help decrease the look of your stitches along the side seam. And then the next side, we'll do it again. Finding my centers first, clipping, and I am clipping it so that the gusset side will be sewn face up. I find that to be a lot easier, but well, it's not good. It's kind of not up to you, if I'm being honest. Because when a pattern is designed, the pieces are designed to sit a certain way. This vinyl is so pretty. This vinyl is called Daylight Alexandrite, and it looks like the stone Alexandrite in the daylight, because there's 2 different versions, not really, but 2 different looks that it can have. Okay. Brittany put a lot of work into this pattern, and it's very evident when it comes to putting the gusset on. You can just tell it fits so perfectly when you sew it just right. You got to follow that curvature of that piece. All right, starting at the top, 3/8 of an inch. No shame in stapling your gusset so it doesn't shift. And then try not to sew through your deck of the light. And I am just trimming to that curve. That's our exterior done. Just over here like, turn it or drop in. But I'll go ahead and do a turned bag. So like I said, this is our exterior done. You can see it has really nice structure with that deck of the light. We've got a zipper pocket and our gusset to make. So I'm going to start with my gusset. That'll be a nice, easy way to start. And I am going to do 3/8 on the gusset. I'm not going to increase because it won't fit the pattern piece just right otherwise. And we can open this up same as we did our other. And top stitch along either side. I'm using a waterproof cotton for the lining. This is a really thick, well, I don't want to say a really thick, but it is a thicker lining option. It is waterproof, but it is not lined with a PVC. Backed with a PVC. And it is fabric that I designed. Okay, finding the center along the bottom. And then I'm going to grab the piece that I'm not adding a zipper to. Doesn't matter which one. Well, guess it's this one. And we'll find the center mark there. Clip along the bottom. And clip along the top. If you want to add 2 zipper pockets, you can. If you want to add a slip pocket to this side, you can. Whatever floats your boat. I did not add a metal tag. I'm okay with that. But I will add a different tag to it that kind of shows that I made it. All right, now this side is not fitting. It's okay. We're going to add snips. And then it will. And voila. She fits. And we're going to start with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and we're going to slowly increase to a 1/2 inch. And then you can leave a large chunk of your lining sewn on either, unsewn on either side, either this one or that one, to sew or to turn the bag through. So we're going to start at 3/8, back stitching well, and just as we get to that curve, increase to a 1/2. If you don't get to quite a 1/2, that's okay. Just go a little bit more and be as consistent as you can. We're increasing the seam allowance down inside the bag so that the lining is a little bit smaller than the exterior and fits inside really nicely. Okay. And then you can add another row of stitching if you want to help reinforce. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. All the way. I am not cutting through my bottom seam though, where I put those together. Okay. So now our lining is half finished. How about that? All right. Zipper pull on. We're almost out of pieces to sew together. I'm adding my zipper pull to this zipper. And I'm going to attach my lining. So you want right sides of the zipper up, right side of the lining up. And I'm just going to tack this on there. Now, if you have a special way of doing a zipper pocket that you like to follow, follow it, baby. Follow your dreams. And for some people, once they attach their zipper, they can just like iron it. But generally the materials I use when I iron it, it doesn't stay where I need it to. So I end up just doing a quick little top stitch. And then I'm going to add 1/8 inch double-sided tape over my stitch lines, just so they're not cold, like a little blanket. Okay, we'll set that aside and we're going to attach our zipper overlay. And again, any kind of overlay shape that you like, do it. Just do it. I'm gonna grab my 2.5 inch ruler and we're gonna lay this some measurement away from the top edge of the lining. Again, I knew it. I just wanted to confirm. Just checking. Oh. Centered is helpful. Okay. And then I had my little signature made into a woven label, so I've been using that. Yeah, yeah. All right. Starting in the corner. Should have had my tails longer. Tell you what. We're sewing along the outer edge. Needle down and pivot. Needle down and pivot. So close to the edge. Pulling my thread to the back. And pulling my thread to the back. And we're going to tie this. And we're going to tie this as best we can. And then we're going to cut our lining fabric away, being really careful not to cut through the vinyl. I like to get to a point where I can just tear through with my scissors, because then I know if there's resistance, stop cutting. Okay, so there's that. I like my zipper pull to be off to the left, but it really doesn't matter. Straighten out the zipper. And if you want to, you can just do one piece of tape at first, or you can go ahead and do both. And I am just making sure that my lining is lined up with the edges of my overlay. And I'm pressing all of that down. And I like my zipper pull off to the side, but not too far that it'll fall off. So fingers crossed we'll be okay. I'll start on that side, going slow. Make sure your zipper is still there. If you have a really big zipper pull you're using, you might want to stop with like 1.5 inches before the open edge, but I know that my pop tab pull will fit in this opening. So I just slide that through. Bring my thread back. What are you? Where did you come from? Okay, straighten this back out. And then just sew over that end. Then we'll sew this shut. After we tie off these threads. Because it would be really terrible if anything happened to the zipper overlay and the zipper. Like, this is a very crucial part of the bag, so taking your time on this to make sure everything's good. It's not a bad idea. Okay. And then I'll fold these down, line it up. Trim the excess. And then we'll fold that up because we're going to sew the bag shut through this hole later on. Make sure your zipper pulls out. Trim that. Okay, and then we're going to unclip this and flip it. Now you've got this little turn hole there. Our zipper pocket is finished. We'll grab the other side of the lining. We're almost done. And then please make sure you leave an opening in the bottom that's bigger than your zipper pocket if you can. I still like to clip everything together even if I'm going to leave an opening. I just want to make sure that what I am going to sew together fits like it should. And I can figure it out. Okay. Make sure your zipper pocket's out of the way. So I'm going to start just past my curve here. I'm going to walk into the lining, and you want to start at about half and then decrease to the 3/8. I guess I could have walked out. That's okay. Now I just have to eyeball my seam allowances, but it's fine. Who am I sewing with my seam on this side? Ah, I'm gonna scream. It's okay. It's currently 11:47 p.m. and I have been working like crazy. 3/8. Maybe. Who knows? So we can trim seam allowance down over here. And over here. Make sure you're not cutting through anything you shouldn't be. We're going to turn this so it's right side out and stick this inside our exterior, which is currently wrong side out. Oh, it's so pretty. Hello. Unzip our zipper. And the zipper pocket is going to go on the back of the bag. It's technically up to you. There is no zipper top closure or anything like that because the flap has enough protection. And then you can either butterfly open your seams or kind of nest them in opposite directions. Just keep it consistent, whatever you start with. So right now my lining is tucked. My lining seam is going in on my gusset, and my exterior is going out on my gusset. And my lining is a good fit. It's not too small, so that's good. It's just a nice tight fit. All right. And then 3/8 of an inch. Give or take. And you can staple, tape, clip. Just don't want anything to shift on you too terribly. Okay, and then as I'm sewing, readjusting. Make sure things are fitting okay. And I think I'm gonna end up sewing around the top twice, because right now I'm like, just get it on, and then I'll make it consistent. All right, there we go. So now I know everything's attached, and I'm more concerned with keeping it consistent. All right then, dang. So now lining away from exterior, and this is gonna be the fun part, but it's okay. We're gonna start with our hand grabbing the bottom of the bag. You wanna start with what's furthest away. As much as you want to grab the top to pull it through, then you're gonna have to fight what's closest to the turn hole to get that through, when in reality, you wanna fight what's furthest away to get that through. And then it's Decaville light, so you want to work quick. Okay, and then as you're going, I know you can't see, then it becomes pulling. We've got quite a bit out, so then we're just pulling and removing the lining off the exterior, and then we can work on getting that shape just right. pretty painless. I know, much easier done than said. Now I still need to sew my bottom shut. I'm just kind of checking to make sure things look okay. It's kind of too late for me to fix it if it's not. But there's no significant tell if the lining shifts other than the zipper pocket's going to be a little off center. You might not notice that. It's a little off center. I guess it is not quite right. That's okay. I'll live. Okay. So then we want to grab bottom of the lining through the zippered pocket. Line up our center, the bottom. And we'll sew that shut. And I am not going to trim that seam allowance. It will be fine. And then we'll sew the bottom of the zipper pocket shut. And this is another fun place I like to add a woven label to. No. We'll go with this one. So cute. Okay. Hopefully I have enough to top stitch. So with our zipper pocket shut, we can now press everything down in the bag. Can check to make sure it shuts just right. And kind of tuck. Press this nicely. Make sure your flap sits nicely. It is so cute. Okay, and then hypothetically you top stitch it, you know? You don't have to, it's fine. It's great. It's great. Just the way it is. No, but for real, it's so pretty. It's so soft. This hang in there is killing me. It's hilarious. I just realized there's nothing cat-like about this bag at all. Except that, like, it's originally a cat bag. All right, I'm gonna pray. Just gonna hope that it works out. So, you could top stitch it this way. I am crazy, and I say, I'll I'll just top stitch it like this. And just be careful, make sure your flap here is all the way out of the way. Make sure those clips are out of the way. 1/8 of an inch along the top edge, nice and slow. I think this bag would be really fun to make at like 150%. Like it would be a bigger messenger bag than like a cute crossbody. And then this opening would be a lot easier as well. All right, y'all, well, we're making it. Did it. Plenty of thread. Top stitching's pretty good. You do not stitch through your flap when you sew when you top stitch, because this is a little sneaky slip pocket. And if you were to stitch through it, well, you're kind of ruining the vibe of the bag, the whole purpose of the bag. Then you can take a couple minutes to shape it. If you need to press out those creases, you can use your iron on your ironing board, warm it up, and then press your bag against the warm ironing board. Don't put an iron on your bag, okay? Just please don't. Alrighty. So then you've got your flap shut. We'll go ahead and attach the strap, which looks so cute. And it has just that pop of floral underneath it. And then when you open the flap, you got that little floral print there too. This unzips to a really big slip pocket back there. You got a zipper pocket, this sneaky slip pocket. And you can add a zipper. You could add like a recessed zipper to the top if you wanted. You just need to make some minor adjustments accordingly, but it is not part of the pattern. But that is it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll check out the Gabriella handbag from the Empurrium. It is so much fun to make. This is my fourth? Maybe third. And this is my first non-cat version. So I hope you enjoyed. I know I did, and I will see you later.